Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I wanted to do a video today talking about the various barriers that I had on the recovery journey. And the reason I wanted to focus on this is because when we're starting out, we are immediately overwhelmed by the various things that we think are working against us in trying to recover from this disorder, and we become very hopeless about it, and we focus only on the negatives, and we focus only on the reasons why we cannot recover, and that's why we keep putting recovery off, and we don't go the extra step or the extra mile to really think that, okay, how can I overcome this, and how can I, what are the steps that I can take to get better. But before I go on, please subscribe to our channel. If you are interested in our coaching services, please email phil@ocdrecovery.com or info@ocdrecovery.com, and yeah, and get in touch with us, and we can take things from there. So I think the first thing I really want to talk about, which I really want to focus on, is myths that I heard about OCD and what recovery looked like for OCD. Because I was told at some point that people who have OCD forever, and the only thing that you can do is that you can manage it as best as you can, and you just have to make do with it and kind of just carry on with life and somehow find like a middle ground or a substandard way of basically carrying on. And that was something that obviously made me very hopeless, because I thought, wait, then this pursuit for me to try to recover or try to do different things to get better, is this useless then? Should I stop? Should I just like stop fighting at all? Um, I will say though that I think when I first heard that, it did make me hopeless, but in retrospect, I also realized that that's something that kind of made me accept OCD as a reality as well, and just accept that fear of being stuck with OCD forever, because I thought, okay, if I have to make do with this for the rest of my life, okay, fine, I'll do that. I truly accepted that as a reality, but obviously it's also something that you don't like hearing. It's not something you don't want to settle for just managing and getting by. Like, people do want, like, a better way to live their life again. And this was also tied into, like, the second point I want to bring up is that I thought that this is obviously my personally derived opinion. This was my personally derived opinion, but also this was the opinion that I was hearing from like everywhere around me as well, was that for me to overcome OCD and my anxiety problems, I had to resolve my traumas or traumatic events from the past. I had to really, like, analyze them and try to figure them out and try to make peace with those events in the past. And someone also once said to me, and this was like a professional who said this to me, was that I think that you are going through the stages of grief after like a certain traumatic event in the past. So you are still stuck in this stage of coming to terms with that grief, or this is part of your grieving process where you are doing these compulsions. And at the time, it made a lot of it made a lot of sense to me. But obviously now I look back and I'm like, no, I mean, I wasn't grieving. I mean, I was way past the stage of grieving. I was just like stuck in these compulsive behaviors. So that's also something that kind of made me feel like, okay, like, do I need to continue doing? Because part of me was like, maybe I need to continue doing these behaviors so that I can process this grief and, like, come to a place of resolve. No. Um, then it's also just the, like, lack of information and awareness that I had about OCD, and also the internet not giving sufficient information. Like, I I mean, okay, I will say I did not do any compulsive deep dive into how to recover from OCD, but like, I did try to consult various sources and stuff, and I tried to look at, okay, what are the treatments, or how do you overcome OCD? And mostly it was all about, okay, you need to do this exposure, or you need to cut out compulsions, but there was no, like, I did not find any resources which detailed how to do that. Like, how do I work on my exposures? Do I need to go up an exposure ladder or hierarchy, or do I just like jump into deep dive into exposures? Do I slowly cut compulsions? And if I'm feeling anxious, what do I do with that anxiety? If I'm feeling fearful, what do I do with that fear? So these were all questions that I had, and I just felt like no. I mean, I did not find any resource on the internet that really resonated with me or like made me feel like it really hit me, or like it just did not crack through this like wall of hopelessness and being like I'm so confused. It did not cut through that. So yeah, so there was that thing as well. Then in my country, at least, there is like a severe lack of OCD specialists. Mostly people I was going to were trauma specialists, or they were doing your regular psychodynamic therapy and stuff like that. But there was no one who was specializing in, forget OCD, even like CBT and stuff. There aren't any specialists for that, and so I think like a lot of my when I actively started to be like, okay, I need to work on OCD and recover from this specifically, I did, you know, come to a bit of a dead end that way, because I felt like, okay, but if somebody is not specializing in this specific thing or OCD, then how can I, like, if I even go to them, I don't think I'll be able to like recover from OCD. So that was another barrier I felt like was present. The books on the reading list, except for Viktor Frankl's book, were not available in my country as well. And I mean, I don't know how the book industry works, and why certain books are not shipped to certain places, but those books weren't available, and even the online editions that you get, like e-versions of books, I think those are also reserved for specific countries. They weren't available in Pakistan. I did not have the option to buy those things. I think there was some place where I could buy those books and get them shipped from abroad, but I was a student back then. And Was I a student, or did I start working? I was a student, I think. Yeah, I was still a student at that point, and I obviously didn't have my own money. And even if I was, even in my first job that I was doing, it did not pay well at all. And obviously, getting books imported from abroad, it like cost me a lot of money. So I did not. I mean, I had to wait for friends to go abroad for them to bring books, and even then, I couldn't ask like one friend to bring all the books. I had to tell different people to like bring them in different stages, because like in luggage as well, like books are very heavy, and people usually don't want to bring books, because I mean they can make your weight limit go up when you're flying. So that was another thing. I had to like get them in steps from different people, and I had to wait for someone to go to get them as well. But again, it's a barrier, but like you find a way around it. Then obviously there is the barrier of, I mean, I didn't see it as a, no, actually that's not true. I did see it as a barrier, I think. I mean, now in retrospect, I feel like no, I didn't, but I think I did, which was like my family and friends around me not fully understanding OCD. I mean, people like had an idea, like my friends had an idea, my family I think had like some level of like basic understanding of how it worked and stuff, but there was that need for people to understand it to the T. I mean, even I fully didn't understand it, so how could I expect other people to? But in that moment, it felt like, okay, people don't fully get this, and that made me feel even more isolated and alone. And I felt like that in itself was a barrier, because it was like, if I can't explain it to people around me who don't fully get it, who will I even explain this to? Will someone ever get this? Will someone ever like understand exactly why my fear exists, and what is it about, what are my compulsions, why are my compulsions functioning the way they do? Like the entire dynamics of it, I was trying to make people understand a little bit. But I mean, obviously that was a futile pursuit, because it was compulsive as well. I mean, thankfully I wasn't on that train for a very long time, but there was like a certain period of time where I was like, okay, no, I need to explain this to people, but I didn't. Um, but the reason I'm mentioning this as well specifically is because people often in the OCD community see this as one of the biggest barriers. They feel like this is one of the most unfortunate things to go through that their family and friends do not understand. It definitely can be, yes, it can be a bit, what's the discouraging, I would say, when people around you don't get it, because obviously you feel like maybe it's just you, and stuff like that, or like when people say that, oh, it's just in your head and things like that. It's very discouraging, and you do feel like a bit down by that. You do feel a bit pulled down. However, that does not mean that it's something that makes the impossibility of your recovery inevitable. It does not. You can still recover. It can make it a bit more inconvenient and a bit more difficult, perhaps, depending on the context of the situation. But it definitely does not mean that recovery is impossible for you, or it's the hardest thing for you specifically, and that other people can easily recover. No, not at all. Most people have all these things that I've mentioned. Most people have at least 3 to 4 of these barriers in their life as well. So it's not just me. And the last one, which is the last one? Oh, yeah, not taking full responsibility myself. This was a huge barrier, and I think this was probably like the biggest one. But I think in some ways I did take responsibility as well. So me trying to work around all these myths and trying to still find a way around lack of OCD specialists or the difficulty of getting the books and stuff like that, and people not understanding, yes, I still try to find ways around it. So in some ways I was taking accountability and charge of my own recovery journey, but there was still a large part of it where I just kept expecting other people to accommodate me, or other people to make changes in their lives to make me comfortable, or do things that were going to help me somehow just overcome anxiety and stuff like that. So I there was definitely a huge element of me not taking responsibility, because that was also then coming into me not doing exposures, me not investing time in disputing, me putting off recovery work, me just making excuses of like, no, there's this and this and this and this, and but no, my family said this that triggered me, but no, this person said this that made me hopeless, but no, I am demotivated, I am this. Like, I was just like putting the blame, everything was external, nothing, wasn't looking internally or trying to take any responsibility for my own journey. So yeah, I think the next video that I want to do are the emotional and mental barriers that I had while on my recovery journey. So these ones I wanted to talk more about, like logistical stuff, because I feel like people are like, oh, this is not just an emotional barrier for me. This is an actual logistical concern for me. And yes, there are. I mean, no, with whatever you need to do in life, working on your mental health, going after a certain career, trying to, I don't know, build a business, or even trying to have a relationship, whatever it is that you are working towards, you are going to have lots of factors working against you. You are going to have lots of things that do not make it very easy and straightforward to achieve the goal that you want to achieve. But there's always a way around. There's always a way that you can adapt your particular situation to try to recover from whatever it is, or work towards whatever it is you want to work towards. For you, the journey might be a bit longer than somebody else. That is a given. Obviously, you cannot compare why someone is doing a certain way and why you aren't doing the same. So journeys will be different for everyone for a variety of different reasons. Even if, by the way, all these barriers did not exist for you, eventually it does come down to like change of perspective. Again, accountability, doing exposures, doing the recovery work. Even if all the other logistical things did not exist for you, and we have many people who come in who don't have a lot of these barriers as well. Their lives are very easy and they're able to access everything very easily. But for them, the recovery journey might be longer, because they are not holding themselves accountable enough to work on recovery. So I just wanted to highlight these because I wanted to give people hope that even with all these things that I felt like were working against me and were making things more and more inconvenient on a daily basis, I mean, you adapt to the situation, you still look for ways that you can recover from OCD. You do not have to make it a life sentence for yourself that because I have all these things working against me, therefore I cannot recover. Don't do that. You can recover. You have a lot of resources, especially with OCD recovery. You have our channel, you have our Facebook group, you have our Instagram where we do upload a lot of advice on a daily basis. You have webinars, you have one-to-one calls, and yeah, we're always here to provide whatever resources that we can to help you out. So take care. Subscribe to the channel if you like this video. Comment, ask me questions, interact with me, whatever you want to ask. And I'll see you guys on the next video very soon.